Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the original Xbox One and see how this particular console holds up in 2024. Now, the thing I would definitely tell you about the Xbox One is that this was a very interesting console when it first came out, but since then we have gotten a couple of different successors of this particular console. That's why I probably wouldn't be, I wouldn't recommend the original Xbox One to everybody as soon as you buy it. Like if you are wanting an Xbox One, maybe the first one isn't the best one to buy, but there are definitely way better consoles that you can buy and way worse consoles that you can buy than the original Xbox One. So just keep that in mind. But the Xbox One S and the Xbox One X were really good successors to the original Xbox One. We'll talk about that throughout this whole entire video. But if you do want to pick up any of the Xboxes that you can still purchase on Amazon, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the outside of the Xbox One, you can actually see that this particular console looks like a very, very good device. It still looks fairly modern for the most part. It always weirds me out a little bit because this thing looks so similar to the Xbox 360e. The 360 that came out kind of right before the Xbox One, and that was something that was very, very crazy. The fact that they made this console almost look exactly like that one, it's actually very funny. The thing with the Xbox One though, was that this was the generation of consoles right after the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and Nintendo Wii. And with this 8th generation console, what they were trying to do is they were competing with the PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Wii U. So because of that, they really wanted to focus in on this console, making it kind of the best type of console they could make. And they were trying to make it super powerful. They were trying to give it this, way better chipset inside and everything. And as you can tell by the way that I'm kind of describing this, I'm definitely not the most heaviest gamer of all time. I'm not like the biggest gamer of all time, but even I knew about the Xbox One and I knew about the kind of power that this console had back then, which was pretty crazy. Now, I remember early on when the Xbox One came out, it seemed like Microsoft was really trying to go and focus in on the kind of social media kind of, community aspect of this console. And I think a lot of people were kind of confused when this console first came out, but then, Microsoft was able to kind of fix their image a little bit and kind of improve on what they originally kind of messed up on. And then towards the end of the Xbox Xbox One life cycle, they were able to actually make a bunch of, sales of this particular console. Now, the Xbox One S came out in 2016 and the Xbox One X came out a little bit after that in 2017. So this Xbox One, from the day that it came out in 2013 all the way up until 2016, had a pretty long lifespan, in front of it. And from the exterior side, I still think it looks fairly good for the most part. Like as I mentioned before, there really isn't a crazy amount to hate on it from a build quality standpoint. It's definitely not the best looking thing of all time, but it definitely doesn't look that ugly either, to be honest. On the front of this console, you're basically getting your standard type of layout. You're getting this standard disc tray right there, which is pretty cool. Not much else to kind of complain about. You're getting your Xbox power button at the front too. You're also getting a USB button on the side of the Xbox, which is very interesting. I think the front made a lot more sense. The side situation, I have no idea why they did that, but it was still, I guess they had to put it somewhere, and maybe they wanted to have expandable storage on the side or something. I guess you could have that type of capability right there. But on the back of the Xbox One, that's where a lot of the magic kind of ended up happening at, because they threw in a bunch of things inside of this console. So for one, you're getting your AC adapter. That's essentially what's powering up this whole entire console. You're also getting 2 HDMI ports. Now, some people might be confused as to why this thing even has 2 HDMI ports, and the reason for that was because you could use your Xbox as somewhat of a pass-through for a different type of device. So let's say I had an Xbox and let's say I had a PlayStation 4. Well, what I could do is if my monitor only had one HDMI port, I could just go through, plug in my Xbox, One inside of my, monitor, and then it would allow me to plug in my PlayStation 4 or my Nintendo Wii U or whatever else I had into my Xbox via that other HDMI port. And I can actually pass through all of my other HDMI accessory through this Xbox One. So I think that was another really cool thing going on for this particular console at that time. Not a lot of other devices had that type of capability, and not a lot of consoles had that type of capability either. But this Xbox One actually did end up bringing it, which was a very, very cool thing. They've since removed it, but I was still very happy that this console had it at that time. You're also getting another USB port, you're getting an Ethernet port, you're getting another Connect port, accessory port as well. And overall, it was a very decent built console. Clearly, it was big. But one of the downsides of this console at that time, I would kind of say, was the fan speed and just how much power these things ended up sucking. So for the most part, the first generation of these 8th generation consoles ended up taking up a bunch of power when you were just going through and essentially using these types of consoles. So that was something that was very annoying at that time. And genuinely for me, if I was going through and buying a console, I don't want it to be the loudest console of all time. And these things with the fan speeds inside of it, it definitely was a pretty loud console when it came down to it. So that's why the Xbox One S was a pretty big game changer and a much better upgrade, because you were actually able to go through and get a console that was going to give you, a much more power efficient console, and it was going to be smaller and slimmer as well, which was another advantage for that type of console when it came down to it. But with something like the Xbox One, I still think this console on the exterior still looks great. There's really not a lot to complain about here either. And I do think it's a very, very good console when it comes down to it from the exterior, but clearly it does look a little bit dated and old. But, that's kind of just what happens when you're getting this type of older type of device. Now, the other big thing going on for this console, for the most part, was actually specifically when it came down to this particular device's gaming, library. There are so many games available for this type of device, which is crazy. And definitely, in my opinion, this is one of the most craziest, this is one of the most craziest things going on for this particular device as of this point. I really do think that for the most part, this particular device is, like I mentioned before, when you're getting some sort of console device for the most part, you want it to go and have as, you want it to have as great of a gaming library as possible. And with the Xbox One, not only was it backwards compatible with the Xbox 360 games, which you were also able to do, especially with like a software update or whatever, what you were also able to do was that you were also able to go through and play all those Xbox One games that came out. And I said this as soon as it initially came out back in the day. I knew, like, when the Xbox Series X and S came out, I knew for a fact that the overlap between the Series X and S and the Xbox One was going to be a larger overlap than the 360 to the Xbox One. I felt like Microsoft did a really good job with the first generation of these Xbox Ones too, and I felt like you could honestly still buy the Xbox One, use that for a long duration of time, and even now, it still gives you a pretty good experience and a pretty good job for the future of these particular consoles, which I actually liked a lot. And like I said, that was something that was very interesting when you were going through and buying the Xbox One, because there are so many games and consoles available. There's so many games available for the Xbox One right now. And the other thing on top of that was the fact that the Xbox One, because of its library and its gaming library ahead of it, you were just able to go through, use that console as much as you wanted to, and all those games that you can download from the Xbox store, all the online games and everything, they were all available for you right there. And there's still a lot of games that are still giving you updates and everything for this particular console from that perspective, which again is another very, very big thing. That is something that I love a lot about this particular console. So the thing I would definitely tell you about the original Xbox One is that I think it's a good device. I think there's still a lot of power behind it. The only thing is that if you can swing for an Xbox One S or an Xbox One X, that would make a lot more sense to go ahead and buy. I think the Xbox One, the original one, is still very good, don't get me wrong. But the thing going on with this particular device is that, you already have successors of this thing, and the successors were really good successors. So take it as you will, but if I'm going to go through and pick up a certain device, I'm probably wanting to go and buy the Xbox One S or the Xbox One X. That would make a lot more sense for me. But if I'm a collector and I want to go ahead and buy the collector, like I buy the Xbox for a collector's item, the Xbox One, the original one, would probably be a really good choice, because that is going to be probably one of the more rare consoles you can buy, considering that it was like the original of those consoles. So take it as you will, but that's kind of how I see this console holding up in 2024. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.